This is the second version of this video. My original idea was going to be an angry dismissal of expired film. Basically, I was going to explain why, after all these years and goodness knows how many rolls of film and sheets, I was done with it. You see, I had experienced a series of real disappointments with my expired film. These were situations where the images I shot were seriously compromised by the fact that the film was either, best before the turn of the century, or had enjoyed some serious lapses in storage, or in many cases, probably both. The result was the same, just disappointing images. As far as I was concerned, the argument for shooting expired film was tenuous at best. And really, why bother shooting expired film if the results are going to suck? And I don't mean suck in a good way. But I've had a change of heart. Well, not really a change of heart, but more a reckoning and a better understanding of where I draw the line with expired film. So why the change? Well, a friend of mine posted a note about having some film that he wanted to get rid of. I'm cheap. So my response was almost instinctive. I said, I'll take it. And then the FedEx package showed up, and I took one look inside the box and thought to myself, oh, for goodness sake, who am I kidding? There were like 100 rolls of film in there. It was 120 film, 220 film, a fair amount of Kodak, half a dozen rolls of Agfachrome 1000, which is the expired film equivalent of finding a unicorn in your stocking at Christmas. I was like an 8-year-old kid who learned he gets a bouncy castle for his birthday party. I have a whole freezer full of expired film. Some is really expired. And I have dozens of sheets of 4x5 ready loads that I got off of Craigslist, as well as a bunch from a friend in New York. And if they were all totally expired, would that stop you from shooting them? Yeah, me neither. I also have quite a bit of the old Agfachrome RSX 50. I have some E200, which is a lovely film. And I have a love-hate relationship with expired film. I love shooting film, and I love a few of the aspects of expired film. But the reality is the more I shoot it, the more I spend for fresh film, and the less likely I am to reach for expired film when the subject is important. When Marshall McLuhan wrote "The medium is the message," I'm sure he was thinking about shooting expired film. I mean, let's be honest here. If you shoot film, the medium is a big part of the message. I fear that expired film might be too big a part of that message for me, but what I'm trying to say here is that if you shoot expired film, it has to be about the film as well as about the results. Otherwise, shoot with a digital camera and save yourself a whole world of pain and suffering. But I digress. Getting back to my opening statement, this video is no longer about me complaining about expired film. It's offering a little poorly informed, technically, consent about expired film and what you can expect from it. These notes are from my own observations, and if anyone cares to clarify in the comments, I would love to hear from you. So to begin, let's just run through the major points of what I'd like to say. There are basically three aspects to be wary of when film gets old. Fog increases, color shifts happen, and there are storage issues. New film is, well, new. It's predictable, color and tonality and film speed are set, and roll to roll and even across batches, the film is consistent. Once you shoot a bit of it, you can pretty much guarantee you can expect reliable results, and you don't have to worry about it. Expired film is exactly the antithesis of new film. It's not old film, it's expired film. It's not like a reliable 2004 Honda Civic or an old sofa in your parents' living room that you can expect will be exactly the same as it was the last time you sat on it. It's expired. It's no longer reasonable to expect that what you might get has any bearing on what's predictable. In all likelihood, the film will still be light sensitive, but after that, all bets are off. What you get with expired film is often a surprise. So, what happens with expired film? The first thing I've noticed is that there's an increase in fog. Bear with me, I'll try to explain this as best I can, given that my education is a BA in art history. Here is a sheet of new film that I managed to load into a holder and not shoot and then process. What you see is, if you look at the edge of the film, you can see that even though it was never exposed to light, there is some density there. That's referred to as base plus fog. It's the color or the tone of the base of the film, the actual plastic acetate, which is transparent but not perfectly clear, and as well the emulsion, which is also clear but still has some density. Now, if you look at this other sheet of film, this sheet of Delta 100 from about 20 years ago, shot about 2 months ago and processed normally, you can see how the base of the film is a lot darker. I know it's not the same film and all film is different, but you can't get around the fact that the old film has a lot more gain of the density at the clear edge of the new film. Now, here's an example of 2 rolls of Tri-X, one fresh, one not fresh, and identical film, 35mm, and you can totally see how much darker the base is in the expired film. Here's a shot of MPC and MPZ, same thing. The MPZ film is a lot darker. So the longer the film sits, the less clear the base plus fog becomes, or the darker the emulsion gets. The faster the film, the faster and more pronounced this fogging happens. So if you shoot MPZ, that'll be 800 ISO film, that's a decade old, you may be scanning through some seriously thick negatives, speaking from experience. But I did manage to get some rather nice shots. The same phenomenon happens with photographic paper, but you can mitigate it somewhat in the darkroom with a chemical called benzotriazole. I like saying that. But there isn't any good way to keep the increase in fog on old film down when you process it. You're stuck with it. So, to add a bit of complexity to an already somewhat complex topic, the warmer the environment the film is stored in, the faster the fog increases, which is why you store film in the refrigerator or in the freezer. But please note, do not store your Polaroid in the freezer. Anyway, the cold keeps the shifts from moving too quickly. And of course, different film stocks and different brands fog at different rates. And this is important. Why exactly? So, well, increases in fog mute highlights and destroy contrast, as well as block up shadows. Basically, turn your negatives into flat, muddy versions of their previous selves. If you're looking for low contrast, block shadow, muted highlight images, then you're set. If not, well, you kind of stuck with it. It is actually a look, and it can be really well done, but in order to make it look good, you actually have to be able to control the outcome. So to recap, fog occurs as film ages. The more sensitive it is and the warmer the environment it's stored in, the faster it fogs. But there are no preset rates of fogging, and different types of brands fog at different rates. So the next one is color shift, and this is the worst. While fog generally affects the entire image, you can deal with the constant change in your images. Color shifts in film, especially expired film, aren't necessarily linear like that. For instance, there's a shot here of my younger daughter from a few years ago. And here it is with the graduated color control filters turned off in Photoshop. That magenta blast from goodness knows where was a real challenge to retouch out. And I don't think I did a particularly good job of canceling it out anyway. So color shifts happen in all forms in all sorts of places. The older the film, the more likely you'll have a shift. Some films shift toward magenta and cyan, other has a big gain in reds, which doesn't bode well for skin tones. And worse, some films lose colors. A film may look like the reds have gained, but it might be because the blues and cyans are non-existent or seriously faded. And let's be clear again, this isn't a cool lens flare look or a bit of fogging in the corner. More about that later. It's an overall shift in the tone of the film. You can correct it out, but not if the curves cross, as in you make a correction for one color and then you mess it up and all the other colors turn into, basically you turn into a tail chasing exercise from hell trying to get things to look good. And sometimes color shifts, of course, are not evenly distributed across the film. Sometimes they're only in part of the frame. Correcting that can be a huge challenge. And then finally, there are issues that come with just storage of film and unexplained phenomena. Basically things that creep up when you're working with something that was never meant to be kept around for this long anyway, let alone used. So I'm going to start with a strange one. I have no idea how this happened or what it is. This is an ancient sheet of Kodak sheet film, E100SW to be exact, best before October 1998, which is about 3 months after I got married. Aside from the crazy color shift across the film, the situation I'm looking at is the flocking in the middle of the frame here. The film was not stored under ideal conditions, and I have no idea what happened to get us here, but there it is. That would be a major, major challenge to retouch out. And so here's another example. This is an old sheet of Ilford Delta 100, and not only is it totally fogged, but you can see two distinct bars running left to right across the top and the bottom of the frame. And again, I have no idea how that happened. The previous two images were mysteries, but here's an example of where I know exactly what happened. I was shooting some portraits, and when I processed the film, every sheet had fog corners. As I made my way through the film, it got progressively worse until I ended up at this sheet, which basically provided all the information about the fact that somebody probably had opened the box at some point and fogged the film. And so the ones underneath were less fogged, but the one on the top was brutally fogged. But all the film in the box had been fogged. Some people charge extra for this look, but I just wish I had known about it before I committed to shooting all these shots. And of course, I did shoot with different cameras when I was working with these portraits, and so it wasn't the end of the world, and I was covered with other, with other formats that didn't have any light leaks, but it was still disappointing. So that's kind of it. Expired film is fun and terrifying for the same reason. If you never really know what you're going to get. My advice to you, and remember just how much you paid for this, is to carefully consider what might go wrong when you shoot with expired film. And if what you're shooting is important, either test some film ahead of time or back it up with a digital camera. Shooting and then processing a test was the traditional way to learn about film. There's no reason why expired film should be any different. Thanks for watching, and good luck. Oh, here's actually a couple of images that I think really benefited from being shot on expired film. The first is one of a panoramic of a lake near Whistler, and that blue cast across the entire frame was totally unexpected, but rather nice. And the second is a shot of Rachel that we've seen several times in the video. And even though the bars on the top and bottom, and even though it's badly fogged, I love the shot. And I feel that a really big part of the mystery of it comes from what was added by the expired film.